a mother's prayer and a CEO's decision. They say that life's most profound moments happen in the spaces between our plans. On a cold December evening, outside Metropolitan Hospital, three souls would collide in a moment that would change everything. A desperate mother clutching her dying daughter, a billionaire CEO rushing to his next meeting, and a choice to walk away or to stop. This is not just a story about money or medicine. This is a story about the moment when one man remembered what it felt like to be helpless and decided that no child should ever feel that way again. This is the story of Marcus, Sophie, and little Emily. Chapter 1: The Waiting. The winter of 2019 was particularly brutal. Snow fell like frozen tears from the gray sky, blanketing the city in a silence that felt both peaceful and ominous. Outside Metropolitan Hospital, where the warm lights from inside contrasted sharply with the cold darkness outside, Sophie Martinez sat on a metal bench, holding her 5-year-old daughter, Emily, close to her chest. Sophie was only 28, but she looked older. Life had not been kind to her. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, evidence of countless sleepless nights. Her coat, thin and worn at the elbows, was buttoned all the way up, but it did little against the biting wind. Her hands, red and chapped from working long hours, trembled slightly as she stroked Emily's hair. Emily was small for her age. Her face was pale, almost translucent, and her lips had a faint bluish tint that no mother should ever have to see on her child's face. But her eyes, those bright, beautiful blue eyes, still sparkled with the innocent hope that only children possess. "Mommy, I'm cold," Emily whispered, her small voice barely audible above the wind. "I know, sweetheart. Just a little longer," Sophie replied, pulling her daughter even closer. She kissed the top of Emily's head, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo, the cheap kind from the dollar store, but Emily loved. They had been sitting there for 2 hours. Earlier that afternoon they had been inside the hospital. Sophie had brought all her paperwork, medical records, payment plans she'd drafted herself, letters from Emily's previous doctors. She had rehearsed what she would say. She had begged, pleaded, explained. The billing administrator, a middle-aged woman with perfectly manicured nails and cold eyes, had looked at the papers and then at Sophie with something between pity and contempt. "Mrs. Martinez," she had said, even though Sophie had corrected her 3 times that she wasn't married, "your daughter's surgery would cost approximately $85,000. You're showing here that you've saved $3,200. That's not even close to what we'd need for a down payment. We require at least 30% up front." "But she'll die without this surgery," Sophie had said, her voice breaking. "The doctors said she has maybe 3 months. Please, I'll work. I'll pay you back. I'll do anything." The woman had sighed, closed the folder and slid it back across the desk. "I'm sorry, we have policies. Have you tried applying for Medicaid, charity programs? I make $50 too much to qualify for Medicaid," Sophie had said bitterly, "and every charity program has a 2-year waiting list. She doesn't have 2 years, she doesn't have 2 months. "I'm truly sorry," the woman had said, but her eyes were already looking past Sophie to the next person in line. That was the 3rd hospital to turn them away. So now they sat outside, because Sophie couldn't bear to go home yet. Going home meant accepting reality. Going home meant looking at the small bedroom she shared with Emily, at the drawings Emily had taped to the walls. Drawings of hearts, always hearts. Going home meant deciding whether to tell her daughter the truth, that Mommy couldn't save her. "Mommy, look," Emily said suddenly, pointing at the hospital entrance. "That man has a white suit like a prince." Sophie looked up and saw. Chapter 2: The man in the white suit, Marcus Hunt, was having the kind of day that most people only dream about. He had just closed a $200 million merger deal. His company's stock had hit an all-time high. Forbes had called him that morning about a cover story. At 42 years old, Marcus Hunt was at the absolute peak of his power. He had come to Metropolitan Hospital to visit Jonathan Pierce, a board member who had undergone a minor procedure. It was a courtesy visit. 15 minutes, a bouquet of expensive flowers, some words about getting back to work soon. The kind of thing that kept business relationships strong. As he walked out of the hospital, his mind was already moving to his next appointment. His driver was waiting. He had a dinner meeting with investors at 7 p.m., and he needed to review the presentation on the drive over. He was 5 steps from his car when he saw them. A young woman and a small child, huddled together on a bench, both shivering. The woman's coat was threadbare. The child's shoes had worn soles. They didn't look like they were waiting for someone. They looked like they had nowhere else to go. Marcus's first instinct was to keep walking. He had a dinner to get to. Important people were waiting. This wasn't his problem, but something made him stop. Maybe it was the way the mother held her daughter, with a desperate protectiveness he recognized. Maybe it was the child's face, pale and fragile. Maybe it was something deeper, something buried in his own past that suddenly clawed its way to the surface. For a moment, Marcus wasn't a billionaire CEO in a designer suit. He was 7 years old again, sitting in a hospital waiting room with his mother, watching her fill out forms with shaking hands, hearing the receptionist say, "I'm sorry, but without insurance." He remembered his mother's face that day. The same look this young woman had now. Marcus made a decision. He turned around and walked toward the bench. Chapter 3. Sophie looked up in surprise as the man in the white suit approached. Her first thought was that he was going to ask them to leave, that someone had complained about them sitting there. "Excuse me," Marcus said gently, and to Sophie's shock he sat down on the bench beside them. "I hope you don't mind. Are you waiting for someone?" Sophie hesitated. Everything in her life had taught her to be wary of strangers, especially wealthy ones who wanted something. But there was something in this man's eyes, a genuine concern that she hadn't seen in a long time. "No," she said quietly. We were just inside. We're waiting for... I don't know what we're waiting for." Marcus nodded slowly. He looked at Emily, who was staring at him with wide, curious eyes. "Hello there," he said to the little girl. "What's your name?" "Emily," she said shyly. "Emily Rose Martinez. I'm 5.5 years old. 5.5 is a very important age," Marcus said seriously. "That's when you stop being a little kid and start being a big kid," Emily giggled. "That's what my mommy says." Marcus smiled, but his heart was breaking. He could see it now, the slight blue tint to her lips, the way she breathed a little too quickly, the pallor of her skin. He had seen it before, in his own mirror decades ago. "She has a heart condition," he said quietly to Sophie. It wasn't a question. Sophie's eyes widened. "How did you—" "I had one too," Marcus said, "a long time ago. Congenital heart defect. I know the signs." Sophie felt tears spring to her eyes. "She needs surgery. They say it's her only chance. But I can't. I don't have the money. I work 2 jobs. I've saved everything I can, but it's not enough. It's never enough." "Where's her father?" Marcus asked carefully. Sophie's jaw tightened. "Gone. He left when she was 2. Said he couldn't handle it. The hospitals, the bills, the stress. I haven't heard from him in 3 years." Marcus felt a familiar anger rise in his chest. He had learned long ago that some people run from responsibility while others face it. This woman had clearly chosen to face it alone. "Tell me everything," Marcus said, "from the beginning." Sophie took a deep breath and began to talk. She told him about Emily's diagnosis at 6 months old, about the medications, the regular checkups, the careful monitoring, about how they'd managed for years, but now Emily's condition was deteriorating, about the 3 hospitals that had turned them away, about her 2 jobs, waitressing at a diner from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., then cleaning offices from 6 p.m. to midnight, about the $3,200 she'd saved in 3 years, and the $85,000 she needed. "I know it's impossible," Sophie said, wiping her eyes. "I know I should just accept it. But she's my baby. She's my whole world. How do I just give up?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. 25 years ago, he said, "I sat where Emily is sitting. My mother sat where you're sitting. She worked 3 jobs trying to save money for my surgery. She worked herself to exhaustion. One night, at her 3rd job, she collapsed. Heart attack. By the time they got her to the hospital, it was too late." Sophie gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "I was 17, Marcus continued. Suddenly I was alone, still sick, with no money and no options. I lived on the streets for 2 months. I thought I was going to die. But then a free clinic took me in. They did the surgery for free as part of a teaching program. I survived. My mother didn't. Tears were streaming down Sophie's face. I'm so sorry. I made a promise at her grave, Marcus said. I promised that if I ever had the means to help someone in the situation we were in, I would. I promised I would never walk past someone who needed help. He stood up and pulled out his phone. Sophie watched in confusion as he dialed a number. Dr. Richard Stevens? This is Marcus Hunt. Yes, Hunt Industries. I need you to assemble the best pediatric cardiac surgical team at Metropolitan Hospital. I need Dr. Chen, Dr. Rodriguez, and the full staff. This is urgent. No, tomorrow morning isn't soon enough. I need them tonight. Money is not an issue. I'm covering all expenses personally. Every single expense. Yes, I understand. Thank you. He ended the call and looked at Sophie, who was staring at him in disbelief. What did you just do? She whispered. I kept my promise, Marcus said simply. Chapter 4, The Miracle. The next few hours passed in a blur. Sophie felt like she was in a dream. Or maybe she had passed out on that bench and this was all a hallucination brought on by hypothermia and desperation. But it was real. Hospital administrators who had turned them away hours earlier were suddenly running toward them with wheelchairs and warm blankets. Dr. Chen, the head of pediatric cardiology, a man Sophie had only seen in medical journals, was kneeling in front of Emily, asking her gentle questions. Can you tell me about your drawings? He asked Emily, who was now wrapped in a heated blanket. I draw hearts, Emily said. Pretty hearts, because mine is broken and I want to draw what it should look like. Dr. Chen glanced at Marcus, who was standing nearby. Both men had tears in their eyes. Within an hour, Emily was admitted to the hospital's finest private room. It had a view of the city lights, a television, and a real bed. Not the kind Sophie had in their studio apartment, but a proper hospital bed with buttons and adjustments. Emily thought it was wonderful. Sophie thought she might collapse. I don't understand, she kept saying to Marcus. Why are you doing this? You don't even know us. I know enough, Marcus replied. He was sitting in a chair by the window, having sent his driver away and canceled all his evening appointments. I know that you're a mother fighting for her child. I know that Emily deserves a chance to grow up. And I know what happens when no one helps. Dr. Chen came in with a team of specialists. They examined Emily thoroughly, reviewing her medical history, conducting new tests. Finally, he approached Marcus and Sophie. I'll be honest with you. Emily's condition is serious. She has a ventricular septal defect, a hole between the chambers of her heart. It's large, and it's getting bigger. Without surgery, she has perhaps 2 to 3 months. Sophie made a small sound, like a wounded animal. But, Dr. Chen continued, the surgery is definitely doable. It's complex. But with our team, I'd say she has a 95% chance of complete recovery. She'll need careful monitoring afterward, but she can live a completely normal life. When can you operate? Marcus asked. Tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. The surgery will take approximately 6 hours. Marcus looked at Sophie. Is that okay with you? Sophie could barely speak through her tears. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. That night, Marcus stayed at the hospital. He sat with Sophie in the family waiting area, drinking terrible coffee from a vending machine. Tell me about Emily, he said. What does she love? Sophie's face, exhausted and tear-stained, softened. She loves art. She draws constantly, on napkins, on receipts, on the backs of my work schedules. She wants to be an artist when she grows up. She says she wants to draw beautiful things for sad people, to make them happy. Marcus smiled. That's beautiful. She's obsessed with hearts, Sophie continued. She draws them everywhere, on foggy windows with her finger, on the sidewalk with chalk, on my hand when I'm sad. She says she's drawing the heart she wishes she had, one that works perfectly. After tomorrow, she'll have that heart, Marcus said firmly. Mr. Hunt. Marcus. Please. Marcus, Sophie said, her voice trembling. I still don't understand why you're doing this. You could have walked away. Anyone else would have. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Do you believe in signs, Sophie? I don't know. Maybe. Today was the anniversary of my mother's death, Marcus said. 25 years exactly. I visit her grave every year. This morning I stood there and I asked her if I was doing enough, if I was living a life that would make her proud. I have money, success, power, but am I actually making a difference? He paused, looking out the window at the snow falling softly outside. And then tonight, I walked out of this hospital and saw you and Emily on that bench. A mother and daughter, desperate for help, exactly like my mother and me 25 years ago. If that's not a sign, I don't know what is. Sophie reached over and took his hand. She would be proud of you, I promise you that. Chapter 5. The surgery the next morning arrived too quickly. At 6 a.m., the surgical team began their preparations. Emily was given a mild sedative to keep her calm. Marcus and Sophie walked alongside her gurney as far as they were allowed. Mommy, I'm scared, Emily whispered. I know, baby, but Dr. Chen is going to fix your heart, and then you'll be all better. You can run and play and draw as much as you want. Will you be here when I wake up? I'm not going anywhere, Sophie promised. Emily looked at Marcus. Will you be here too, Mr. Marcus? Marcus knelt beside her. I promise. Okay, Emily said. Then, with the simple wisdom of children, she said, You know what? I'm not scared anymore. I think angels sent you to help us. Marcus had to turn away to hide his tears. At exactly 7 a.m., Emily was taken into surgery. The waiting began, 6 hours, 360 minutes. Each one felt like an eternity. Sophie couldn't sit still. She paced the waiting room, prayed in the chapel, stared out windows without seeing. Marcus stayed with her the entire time, a steady, quiet presence. At noon, Sophie broke down. What if something goes wrong? What if I lose her? She's all I have. She's my whole reason for living. She's going to be fine, Marcus said firmly. Dr. Chen is the best. The team is the best. Emily is strong. She's going to make it. How can you be so sure? Because she has to, Marcus said simply. Because the world needs more people like her. People who draw hearts for sad people. Because you didn't give up, even when you had every reason to. Because some stories are meant to have happy endings. At 1:47 p.m., the doors opened. Dr. Chen walked out, still in his surgical scrubs. He was smiling. The surgery was a complete success, he said. Sophie's legs gave out. Marcus caught her, held her as she sobbed with relief. Emily's heart is strong now, Dr. Chen continued. The repair went perfectly. She'll need to stay in the ICU for a few days for monitoring, but I expect a full recovery. She's going to be just fine. Can I see her? Sophie asked. She's still sedated, but yes, follow me. Chapter 6. The Recovery. Emily woke up 3 hours later. She was groggy and confused with tubes and wires attached to her, but she was alive. She was going to live. Hi, baby, Sophie whispered, holding her daughter's hand gently. Mommy, did they fix my heart? Yes, sweetheart. You have a perfect heart now. Does it hurt? It will for a little while, but then you'll feel so much better. Emily looked around and saw Marcus sitting in the corner. You stayed, she said, her voice weak but happy. I promised, Marcus replied. Over the next 2 weeks, Emily's recovery was remarkable. The doctors were amazed at how quickly she bounced back. Soon she was sitting up, eating solid food and, to no one's surprise, asking for paper and crayons. Marcus visited every single day. He brought toys, books, and art supplies. His favorite gift was a professional artist's set. 100 colored pencils, watercolors, sketch pads, everything a young artist could want. Emily's face had lit up like Christmas morning. This is the best present ever. You're going to be a great artist someday, Marcus told her. And when you are, I want a drawing. I'll draw you 1,000,000 drawings, Emily promised. True to her word, Emily drew constantly during her recovery. She drew the nurses who took care of her. She drew the view from her window. She drew her mother sleeping in the chair beside her bed. And she drew Marcus. In her drawing, he was sitting on the bench where they'd first met. But she'd added something, wings, large, beautiful angel wings behind him. That's what you are, Emily explained when she gave it to him. You're our angel. Marcus kept that drawing in his wallet for the rest of his life. Chapter 7, The New Beginning. 2 weeks after the surgery, Emily was discharged. She was healthy, strong, and ready to go home. But Marcus had one more surprise. "Sophie, can we talk?" he asked. They sat in the hospital cafeteria, the same place where they'd waited during the surgery. "I've been thinking," Marcus said. "You work 2 jobs, barely making ends meet. That's not sustainable, and it's not fair to you or Emily. I'd like to offer you a position at Hunt Industries." Sophie's eyes widened. "What?" I don't have a college degree. I don't have any corporate experience." "You have something better," Marcus said. "You have resilience, determination, and compassion. I'm offering you a position as a community outreach coordinator. You'd work with families in situations similar to yours, connecting them with resources and support. Regular hours, 9 to 5, good salary, full health benefits." "I can't. This is too much." "You can and you will," Marcus said firmly. "You deserve stability. Emily deserves to have her mother home at night. And honestly, I can't think of anyone better for this role. You know what these families are going through because you've lived it." Sophie was crying again. "I don't know how to thank you." "Then don't thank me. Just accept the job and use your experience to help others." But Marcus wasn't done. He had one more announcement. "I'm also starting a